Hey guys, um, let's read some writing and rhetoric together. And this is on page 101. We're starting lesson 9. So follow along with me as I read, and it'll be good fun. Okay, lesson 9, conflict, the middle of the story. When you've created your own stories, we usually talk about conflict as the climax, where you have normal life and then something happens that changes it and increases the excitement, and that can be part of the conflict, and then it rises to its most dramatic or the most conflict. So we're talking about conflict, the middle of the story. All right, getting comfy. For many authors, the hardest part of writing a story is the middle. Once you have a beginning, it's usually pretty easy to see the ending. If you write a story about a girl meeting a stray dog, what might be a happy ending? What might be a sad ending? I think you can think of things. If you write a story about a boy who discovers a treasure chest buried in his backyard, what might be a happy ending? What might be a sad ending? Okay. The beginning of the story is all about grabbing your reader's attention. The middle of the story is about keeping them interested. If the ending comes too easily without a strong middle, then your reader will think, well, that's dull. If that girl who meets the stray dog brings him home and her parents say, oh goody, let's keep him, that's not very interesting, is it? If the boy's treasure chest actually turns out to be a box of rusty nails, the reader might say, ho hum. Conflict is the necessary ingredient that helps writers keep their readers' attention in the middle. When a story character wants something, and someone or something gets in the way, that's conflict. The goal of the girl is to keep the stray dog. Conflict comes when the parents say, no, we don't want a stray dog. We don't want any dog. The goal of the boy is to find the owner of the treasure chest. Conflict comes when the boy is ambushed by a crew of bandits. Where did you get that gold coin? They demand. That's our money, you thief. I made them pirates. Conflict gets in the way of the character and keeps him from easily reaching the goal. We're going to read the story of Alexander and Bucephalus. Ask yourself, what conflict in the middle makes the story interesting to read? So, Alexander and Bucephalus. This is adapted from James Baldwin, 50 Famous Stories Retold. We're on page 103. Follow along, please. One day, King Philip of Macedon bought a fine horse called Bucephalus. He was a noble animal, and the king paid a very high price for him. But the horse was wild and savage, and no man could mount him, or do anything at all with him. They tried to whip him, but that only made him worse. At last the king told his servants to take him away. It's a pity to ruin so fine a horse as that, said Alexander, the king's young son. Those men do not know how to treat him. Perhaps you can do better than they, said his father scornfully. If you would only give me leave to try, said Alexander, I can manage this horse better than anyone else. And if you fail to do so, what then? Asked Philip. I will pay you the price of the horse, said the lad. While everybody was laughing, Alexander ran up to Bucephalus and turned the horse's head toward the sun. He had noticed that the horse was afraid of his own shadow. He then spoke gently to the horse and patted him with his hand. When he had quieted Bucephalus a little, Alexander made a quick spring and leaped upon the horse's back. Everybody expected to see the boy killed instantly, but he kept his place and let the horse run as fast as he would. By and by, when Bucephalus had become tired, Alexander reined him in and rode back to the place where his father was standing. All the men who were there shouted when they saw that Alexander had proved himself to be the master of the horse. The boy leaped to the ground, and his father ran and kissed him. My son, said the king, Macedon is too small a place for you. You must seek a larger kingdom that will be worthy of you. After that, Alexander and Bucephalus were the best of friends. They were said to be always together, for when one of them was seen, the other was sure to be not far away. But the horse would never allow anyone to mount him but his master. Alexander became the most famous king and warrior that was ever known, and for that reason he is always called Alexander the Great. Bucephalus carried him through many countries and in many fierce battles, and more than once did he save his master's life. Okay, that's our story. I'm going to do what we usually don't have time to do, and that is talk about it. So, obviously I won't be able to hear your answers, which makes me sad, but we can read these questions and kind of talk through them. What is Alexander's goal in this story? What does he hope to do? Kind of think about that on your own, and then I'll tell you what I think the answer might be. Let's see, and then I'll check my answer with the back to see if we think the same thing. Okay, Alexander's goal in the story. So obviously, right, he wants to tame this horse. He sees that there's a better way to train him and that people aren't doing it. And he wants to prove that he can train the horse. Maybe prove himself too. You know, there may be an underlying thing where he thinks his father thinks he can't do something and he needs to prove to his father that he's capable. So I think that's what he's hoping to do. Let's see what the book says. Was to save Bucephalus from abuse and win ownership of the horse. Yeah, I'm sure that too. What conflict does Alexander face in the story? What two things are standing in the way of his goal? Okay, think. What conflict does he face? Well, some conflict, right, is that the horse is wild and savage. Why would he think he'd be able to ride it is anyone's guess. So first challenge is that. The second, I would say, is his father doesn't think he can do it. He talks scornfully to him and laughed at him. He was being laughed at, so no one thought he would be able to do it. So I would say those are the two things standing in the way of his goal. Yeah, mockers surrounding the king, and from Bucephalus himself, who initially tries to run so fast that Alexander falls from his back. What? Did I miss that? Oh, he wants him to fall from his back. Okay, cool. Alexander's youthful age and his lack of experience is another obstacle that he must overcome. That's true. We don't know that he's ever tamed a horse before, and he's young, so maybe not. Number 3. In the news, a stray dog rescued a woman and her son from a robber who had a knife. The woman and her 2-year-old son were strolling away from a playground in Florida. Florida's a dangerous place, man. Y'all have all pretty much been there recently. I'm surprised you made it out. Okay. We were out in Florida when the robber jumped out of the bushes. All of a sudden, a homeless dog snarled and bolted across the playground, attacking the robber and chasing him away. What conflict could be added to the middle of the story to make it even more exciting? Okay, so a stray dog rescued a woman. She were strolling away from a playground in Florida. Robber jumped out of the bushes. All of a sudden, a homeless dog snarled. So what could you add, right, to make it more interesting in the middle? Well, you could talk about the robber maybe standing in their way of the path. Maybe talk about how nobody else is around. They can't see where help would come from at all. Maybe she doesn't have a cell phone. She can't call 911. She's trapped. Maybe he's coming toward them and saying mean things and threatening them, and they can't see anyone who's going to save them and help them. I think that would add a lot of interest to the story. In the end, maybe he'll get arrested and come to Jesus in prison. That'd be great. Okay. Number 4. Also in the news, a boy and his grandfather were walking across a newly plowed field in Sweden when they discovered old silver coins. They dug deeper and found more and more coins. Archaeologists came to the site and carefully dug up the whole area. They found a Viking treasure of 7,000 silver coins from around AD 1200. What conflict could be added to the middle of this story to make it even more exciting? What might happen in the end? Okay, so you can think on that on your own, and heck, if you want to write a story about one of these, that'd be awesome. Oh, I want to read your stories. I miss reading your stories. You are such good writers. But about this, dug deeper and found more coins. What if somebody came along and said, hey, we're going to take all those coins from you? That'd be bad. Or what about if the archaeologist came and dug up and found everything, and then there was a big conspiracy, and they tried to take credit for finding it on their own without the help of the guy and the boy and his grandfather, and there was a big scandal in the news? That'd be bad. Or what about they discovered the old coins, and at first they didn't even think about it. They just went on their merry way, and they tried to pay with those coins at the store, and the person wouldn't take them because they were so old, and they didn't realize that they had found something really special. Maybe. I'm sure y'all could think of better things than all of that, but yeah, I just want to talk through this with you because usually we don't have time in class to talk about it, and they're usually really interesting questions and cool things to think about. But now go ahead on your own. You'll do Tell It Back number 2 and 3. That's on page 105. So you'll be putting the events in order using B for beginning, M for middle, and E for end on number 2. And on number 3, you're going to write down in your own words, so you're summarizing what happened at the beginning of the story, what happened in the middle, and what happened at the end. Okay? So go ahead and do that on your own, and have a wonderful day.